Good morning. Good morning. My name is Delegate Stephanie Smith, Chair of the Baltimore City House Delegation to the Maryland General Assembly, calling our hearing for this week to order. Good morning to one and all. Crystal, did you disseminate any minutes from last week's hearing or briefing rather?
No.
Council Jeremy, was that necessary considering there was no official business handled?
Not necessarily, no, Madam Chair.
What we could do is postpone a review of those maybe minutes that we can make pretty quickly next time. Would that be permissible?
Yes, and then sending them out to the members and publishing them on the website should be sufficient.
Okay, perfect. We'll handle that since there really wasn't any bill activity for that hearing. It was just a briefing. I know at this time, per the agenda, we wanted to do some technical fixes to the rules, and at this time, Staff Council will review that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As this is the first meeting where there will be official business conducted, we have to, according to our rules from last session, adopt or ratify the rules for this session. I actually don't have any changes from last year. I just wanted to kind of open it up to see if anyone had any questions about the rules before there is a motion to adopt them.
Move to adopt the rules.
Second.
Sorry, is there a second? I was speaking on mute.
Second.
All those in favor of adoption of the rules say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The rules are adopted. Thank you so much. I'm getting a little bit of feedback. I just want to make sure everyone's muted. Okay, now I think it sounds a bit clearer. Perfect. Okay. Crystal, could you get the first bill number for me? I believe it's for Delegate Attar.
Madam Chair, it's House Bill 523.
Are you prepared to begin?
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You're free to go.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and colleagues. I'm, for the record, Dahlia Attar, here presenting House Bill 523. This bill was before us last session. We received a favorable report. It passed in the House of Delegates, and then it did not get a hearing in the Senate. So I filed it the exact way that we got a favorable report and passed in the House of Delegates. And what this bill does is it requires landlords to show that they have a rental registration when they file for eviction. So they must prove by preponderance of the evidence that the property is registered. This bill is supported by the Baltimore City Mayoral Administration, the Sheriff's Office, MMHA, GBBR, the Greater Baltimore Board of Realtors, and the Maryland Judiciary. Originally, they were going to oppose the bill, but I worked with them last session on amendments, and they did not take a position last session. They advised me they were not taking a position this session. So I ask that colleagues that you give a favorable report once again.
Thank you so much, Delegate Attar. Are there any questions for her? Seeing none and realizing that we also voted on this bill last session, is there a motion to move for a vote on this bill?
Favorable.
Second. Is there a second? All those in favor vote aye?
Aye.
Okay, Jeremy, should we be doing a roll call at this time?
I think roll call probably isn't necessary unless there is opposition. If anyone does oppose the bill, they could maybe use the raise hand function just to indicate that they do oppose, and then we could possibly have a roll call.
Okay. I don't see any hands raised indicating opposition. I'll give people 3 more seconds in case you're trying to figure that out. Seeing no raised hands, I think it's sufficient for us just to take a vote, a straight up vote. All those in support of this bill say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this bill passes. Thank you so much, Delegate Attar. I see that Delegate Lewis, one of the reasons why we were a little out of order was having some issues. So I just wanted to make sure, Delegate Lewis, are you back with us? Oh, there she is. I'll admit her. Delegate Lewis?
Here,
Oh, yeah, we hear
Madam
you.
Chair. Madam Chair, thank you. I have really bad luck with WebEx. For some reason, the camera doesn't work. It crashes, but hopefully you guys will bear with me. I won't take long. I guess you're ready to hear my bill. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I went out of order, because I knew you needed to get back in here with us. So at this time, we will hear House Bill 284.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, colleagues. House Bill 284 is what I refer to as my bus lane bill. You've heard this bill before. I introduced it in 2020. It received a hearing in Environment and Transportation, but didn't come to a vote. We ran out of time. House Bill 284 is the result, the product of a year-long study conducted by the MTA and the Baltimore City Department of Transportation, the purpose of which was to identify strategies to effectively implement a dedicated bus lane program in Baltimore City. You guys all know I'm car free by choice. I used mass transit in Baltimore City to get around. And the biggest problem with our buses is that the service is of not great quality. Quality service means frequent and reliable. One of the biggest issues our buses have is interference with traffic. So a dedicated bus lane is designed to essentially create a fixed, protected pathway for buses to move. Baltimore City right now is the only jurisdiction with dedicated bus lanes. We have 5 or 6 miles of dedicated lanes, which you guys have all seen. You recognize them because they're painted red. That 5 or 6 miles of dedicated bus lane exists mostly downtown, mostly in the 46th district, but the city DOT is looking, and MTA are looking to expand that to improve quality of service for all. This bill implements the recommendations of the MTA DOT study by recommending enforcement of the bus lanes using existing stationary camera information to issue citations. What does that mean? Well, right now, although enforcement is happening, it's happening sporadically, it's happening intermittently, and ultimately ineffectively, which means that working people, students, folks who depend on transit, and that's at least 30% of our city population, are denied their right to efficient mobility, to get to work, school, jobs, doctor's appointment, COVID testing sites, you name it. By using existing stationary cameras to enforce the lanes, which simply means take a photo of someone violating the rules of using a lane and using that just like a red light speed camera or a red light camera or a speed camera, using that visual photographic information to issue citation. This bill is supported, we expect to have a letter from MTA, but MTA, Maryland DOT supported this legislation last year. I expect them to do so again. This legislation and this proposal is supported by the Baltimore City Office of the Mayor and the Baltimore City DOT. It really is common sense. I don't want to belabor it because I've been talking about bus lanes for 3 years now. Let's get this right. Let's do this for the people of our city and state. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Delegate Lewis. Are there any questions for Delegate Lewis?
Oh, sorry.
Hey, technology can push us to the
it's about to crash. Sorry.
Okay,
I'm so sorry. Please.
okay. I don't see any questions. I know we had a pretty extensive bill hearing about this in the past. Are there folks interested? Is there anyone interested in making a motion regarding a vote on this, or is there a question?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Delegate.
technology or the user, but I had my hand raised, so I don't know, not sure whether that's appropriate or not.
I apologize. I didn't see that. By all means.
I have a quick question for the sponsor of the bill. Can you just enlighten me a little more on what is the appeal process for an individual who receives a citation? Is there a rebuttable presumption, uh, an irrebuttable presumption when an individual receives this ticket? How do they go about appealing it? Does it follow the same presumptions as a red light or speeding camera? Hello?
Just a moment, Delegate. I had to readmit her because her technology had an issue. So she's back at it. Would you mind restating, Delegate Haynes?
Sure. Uh, if the sponsor of the legislation can enlighten me a little bit, maybe this was asked on last year, but I'm not sure. Can you tell me whether or not this legislation has built into the language a presumption that is either rebuttable or irrebuttable by an individual who receives one of these issued citations? Does it follow per se the same statutory presumptions as the red light or speeding cameras? How does one appeal this to receive a citation from a stationary camera?
Okay, thank you for that question, Delegate Haynes. Hopefully you guys can hear me. In answer to your question, sir, a dedicated bus lane violation citation would be treated like any other traffic violation citation. The language in the bill is exactly the same as language referring to any other traffic violation citation. So if you were to get a ticket for violating a bus lane, then you have the right to rebut it in court, just like any other ticket.
Hmm. Okay, I don't know whether is the chair of judiciary on.
Yes, Delegate.
Delegate, chairman of the judiciary, is he on?
Yes, he is. He may have stepped away for a moment, but he did log on.
I'm just looking for some clarification, and it may be just my misunderstanding that I thought some years ago when we did the red light cameras or the speeding I think it was the red light cameras and the speeding cameras, that there was a rebuttable presumption, and then we changed the law to where it was rebuttable. So I may be incorrect in my thinking on what the law currently is. So I just wanted that clarification. So if someone could just clarify.
Chairman Cuppinger is not able to speak at this exact moment, but it sounds like we have some outstanding questions. So perhaps we can wait until after the next bill hearing and see if he's available to answer that question. Would that work?
That's fine. I don't want to hold the bill. I just want some clarification on my understanding of what the current law is. if it's following the calendar. Yeah.
Not a problem. We'll wait a moment and get that answer. Are there any other questions for Delegate Lewis? Delegate Lewis, thank you for your time. I'm going to just decline to request a motion on voting on your bill just so we can get an answer for his question, and then I'll ask after the next bill hearing that's coming up right after this, okay? She may be back in the lobby trying to get back in again. Let me see. Let me double check. Okay, well, we're going to move on in the interest of time. So let me admit all the folks in the waiting room that are preparing for this next bill hearing. First Vice Chair Haynes, you're going to have to preside over this next bill hearing because it's mine. The bill number is 374. It's a topic of familiarity to you. Oh, we can't hear you. Let me make sure that you're.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah.
If the delegation would turn its attention to House Bill 374, we will call upon the sponsor of the legislation, the chair of the Baltimore City Delegation, Stephanie Smith.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Good morning to my colleagues. Again, for the record, Delegate Stephanie Smith, sponsor of House Bill 374 rather. And I'm here this morning to request your support for a bill that would extend collective bargaining rights by establishing an additional bargaining unit for faculty for the Baltimore City Community College. One of the things that I discussed in the bill hearing we had for this bill a few days ago in the Appropriations Committee is that we know that our community college, the community college system writ large is really going to be on the front lines of helping to retrain and prepare people, through this pandemic as it continues to change our economy. And we also know that many of the challenges that have been faced by K through 12 education being conducted remotely are also being felt by those students who are oftentimes in Baltimore City living in some of the same Wi-Fi deserts and some of the same challenging circumstances as some of our very youngest students. So within this backdrop of an evolving economy, within this backdrop of an evolving delivery of education, there is an ongoing need to ensure that all of the stakeholders, be it the leadership of the community college as well as the faculty that's delivering the education, that they have an opportunity to organize their thoughts, to communicate, strategize, and come to agreement in a way that is perhaps as efficient as possible. I believe that's what organized labor and collective bargaining opportunities do present, is an opportunity to schedule communications, an opportunity to coordinate, concerns in a way that has structure. Now, this bill does not create a union. It just enables the faculty to decide if this is a direction that they want to go in. Now, I know that BCCC has faced many, many challenges over the past several decades. And for those longstanding members of the General Assembly, you're quite aware of them. And to the extent the state has intervened to ensure that we have the best leadership and the best kind of trajectory forward. And I personally have great confidence and appreciation for the performance of Dr. McCurdy, who is currently presiding as president of BCCC, and I'm sure we'll hear from shortly. The tasks are huge. There are capital needs. There are also needs around procurement, and there's also needs around just ensuring that faculty and students are getting all the support and resources they can to deliver the highest quality product to students. That in mind, this bill is not contemplated or conceived as a punishment for the leadership of BCCC. I've had many wonderful and productive conversations with the president about some of the concerns faculty have shared with me. But in all of our conversations, it's been made clear, at least to me, that faculty have great respect for the challenges on the plate of the institution and just really want to be a productive part of the decision making moving forward. A couple of things just to put before your consideration is that if you are able to refer to the fiscal note, there's very, there is a discussion that perhaps there could be an increase in spending by the institution if there was an agreement to increase, for example, faculty compensation. But I want to just highlight that when there's a contract to be negotiated, if this were to be voted upon by the faculty as the direction in which they wanted to go, there's no guarantee that you get a raise simply because you enter negotiations concerning elements of your compensation, because it's still subject to a state budget and it's still subject to a lot of those parameters. So I just want to put that in front of you for your consideration. But I also want to mention that beyond compensation, there are a lot of things that enter a bargaining conversation that have nothing to do with compensation. There are other important considerations in a workplace that don't always have to do with compensation that are negotiated, that are discussed, and are an agreement is arrived at between stakeholders. So with that in mind, I just want to extend an opportunity to the faculty at BCCC to enter into a collective bargaining situation should they vote upon it and find that suitable. But this bill does not, in fact, create a union. So I will leave it to those who will be coming after me to share some of their perspectives. But I thank you so much for your time and hope for a favorable report for House Bill 374. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair. For the sponsor of the legislation. I think the easiest way to do that is just to speak up so you can be recognized. Seeing or hearing none, or favor of the legislation. Chair, are there individuals that you know of who have signed up to testify in favor? Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
I don't have that list, but our staff, Crystal York, do you have that list? Miss York?
Yes, I.
Could I just refer to them in order? I don't have it in front of me.
Yes. So we have the first person is Mr. Baker. I'm not sure who has the feedback. Can you please mute your mic, please?
Delegate Hank, whenever you're not speaking, if you could mute, thank you so much.
I'm going to defer to our staff since she has the list in order of signing up. If she would just go ahead and call those individuals in order and to testify. And once you that individual has testified, I will go back online to ask the delegation members whether there are any questions. And if not, I would then ask Ms. York to call the next person who has signed up so we can follow that process. So Ms. York, if you would just call the first witness and you can go ahead and proceed.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The first person will be Mr. Ray Baker from AFT Maryland.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and delegation. Thank you for having me today, this morning, to speak with you all. I won't be before you too long, and I'll be specifically anecdotal because you have AFT Maryland's written testimony as well as supportive testimony in favor of this legislation from the Maryland State and DC AFL-CIO. Briefly, I would just want to remind the delegation that between 1970 and 1990, the faculty at Baltimore City Community College did indeed enjoy collective bargaining rights. And unfortunately, in 1990, upon the change, when it became a renamed and a new institution and a new administration was installed, the faculty union was unfairly decertified, not because faculty no longer wanted a union, but this was done because the administration did not want a faculty union. We understand that workers' rights and racial justice must go hand in hand. We introduced the question of race because we recognize the student population that Baltimore City Community College serves and those faculty members that overwhelmingly make up that faculty. It would behoove us to come off of the Martin King weekend to recognize the summer of reckoning that we just had in our nation in 2020 and not acknowledge the fact that racial justice must be at work here for the faculty of Baltimore City Community College. It is fundamentally unjust, and we have long recognized in Maryland that public employees have a basic right to engage in collective bargaining. I thank the sponsor, Delegate Smith, for outlining the fact that this is enabling legislation that does not mandate a union, nor does the presence of collective bargaining ensure or assert that it will be a greater or increased cost to the administration. We recognize the specific and unique challenges that Baltimore City Community College is facing right now, but we also think that it is important that public employees of all walks of life, obviously with AFT Maryland, representing over 20,000 across the state, we see the value of public employees. We think that they deserve due process. We think and believe they deserve collective bargaining rights. And lastly, we believe that this is complementary, not contradictory to shared governance. We know that faculty unionization does not interfere with the shared governance structures that are already in place. Most institutions nationwide have faculty collective bargaining rights. And here in Maryland, Montgomery College and Montgomery County have both faculty senates and faculty unions. We know not long ago that the House of Delegates did pass a bill that would have provided collective bargaining for faculty at community colleges. Unfortunately, it stalled in the Senate. So ultimately, we ask for a favorable report on HB 374 to respect the rights and dignity of public employees in the state of Maryland, and particularly here in Baltimore City. I thank you for your time, and I'm open to questions, should any from the delegation.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Baker. Are there any questions from the members of the delegation for Mr. Baker with AFT Maryland? Ms. York, will you please call witness that has signed up in favor?
Yes, Vice Chair. The next person is Dr. Katana Hall from BCCC.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of the Baltimore City Delegation. My name is Katana Hall, and I'm a full professor at Baltimore City Community College, where I teach and have taught English composition, English literature, African American literature, speech communication, introduction to film and theater courses for over 16 years. I'm here today to ask for your support for HB 374, which is legislation that will enable faculty at Baltimore City Community College to vote on whether we would like to engage in collective bargaining for terms that govern working conditions. I teach approximately 5 classes every semester in a variety of modalities. I use a differentiated teaching learning approach in the classroom because my classroom might have students ranging from the ages of 16 to 75. That means as faculty, we must meet every student where they are and take them to the next level so that they can realize their academic, personal, professional aspirations. I believe that I serve as a stellar role model for my students in the classroom. I grew up on the east side of Baltimore. I attended Gorsuch Elementary School, Woodburn Junior High School, Western Senior High School, and the great Morgan State University. I also, because of my educational background in Baltimore City, I was encouraged to attend New York University and Bowling Green State University, where I received my MFA and PhD degrees respectively. I conscientiously model the look, the sensibility, the preparation, the determination, and the joy for learning I want my students to possess. I want them to know that if I can do this, they can do this. Nothing beats working both smart and hard rather, when the situation arises. So I wish that you could see the faces of my students the moment that they understand they are intelligent and critical thinkers, and that they must and can empower themselves in a manner that improves the quality of life for them, their families, and communities. Those are the moments I cherish as an educator in Baltimore City. And then there are quieter moments during one-on-one office hours or in the wee hours of the morning when I'm grading and they're texting me and they're in distress. It becomes difficult for my students, particularly now, because they see that the challenges oftentimes from their perspective outweigh their successes. But it is in those moments that I remind our students that they are amazing, that they are strong, that they are worthy, that they are capable. I help them remember that they are hope-filled, and that's why they're in my classes. I celebrate our future, as I'm sure you do, and I encourage each student to finish what they start. It is my honor and privilege to educate the student population at Baltimore City Community College, the citizens of Baltimore and the state of Maryland. As a Baltimore resident, I serve my community and my profession, my honorable profession, gladly. That is precisely why I'm asking for your favorable report of HB 374. If this bill is passed and enacted into law, it simply allows us the opportunity to choose. It allows us the opportunity to choose. Many years ago, before my employment, you've heard that the faculty had collective bargaining rights and tenure. Things have changed a lot since then. I have served students under the leadership of 7 different administrations, 7 different presidents. And though I welcome change, clearly having certain consistencies in place for faculty contracts and working conditions affords us to do our jobs more effectively. That our job is to educate. We shouldn't have to concentrate on certain areas of teaching and learning. I should not be worried that I cannot plan courses well because my schedule is not confirmed until the Friday before classes start, or that changes without consultation occur, or that every few years when I learn what I can and cannot teach based on who sits in the chief academic officer's chair, despite clear guidelines that are provided by COMAR. Please note that I am not singling out the current president or any of her cabinet. They've been with the college approximately, or Dr. McCurdy's been with the college for maybe 1.5 years. And I'm going to be quite honest with you. Most of the issues that adversely affect me and my colleagues at the college were a problem long before her arrival. As you are aware, my colleagues, skilled staff personnel at the college have been granted the right to engage the administration in collective bargaining. And my colleagues at Montgomery College, even their adjunct faculty, have access to engage in collective bargaining. The faculty at Baltimore City Community College should be afforded access to the same rights. We should have the right to choose whether we want to consider engaging in collective bargaining or not. Lastly, I educate Baltimore City residents. I stand on the front lines of urban education 7 days a week since the onset of the novel coronavirus SARS-CoV-2. And I bring the best of all I have garnered, researched, taught, trained for, and experienced to the learning environment for my students. The students at BCCC, no matter their backgrounds, socioeconomic status, religion, ethnicity, gender identification, or political views, deserve the best in education we can provide, and their professors deserve the best democracy in the workplace we can have. It is my sincere hope that you will support the passage of HB 374. I thank you for the opportunity to address you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hall. Are there any questions from the members of the delegation for Dr. Hall? Hearing or seeing none, I will ask Ms. York if she would call the next witness, if there is.
Thank you, Vice Chair. The next witness to testify is Mr. Kondo, Mr. Zach Kondo. He's faculty with BCCC. Can you hear us, sir?
Yes. Everybody hear me? Can everybody?
Yeah.
Yes, you can go right ahead, Mr. Kondo. Several members have committee meetings and voting sessions immediately following or shortly delegation meetings. So we're not putting a time limit on testimony, but we just want to keep an eye on the time as we do have other bill hearings we're trying to get through this morning. So go right ahead, Mr. Kondo. Mr. Kondo, you can go right ahead and begin your testimony.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you
Okay.
fine.
Okay, great.
Right.
Okay. I'm Bob Zach Kondo. I've been teaching at BCC for 15, I guess it's 15 and a half years. It's been one of my great privileges to be there. I have really enjoyed my experience there. As a member of the faculty, I think that it is vital that we have more of a voice, that we have the right to collective bargaining. I think that, it's just, it's right. Anybody who understands labor history, knows that before labor unions, before labor organized in order to, represent their own best interest, there was no say for labor. And that's not, there's no justice in that. It doesn't mean that, if we have collective bargaining that, we're gonna, launch a revolution. It doesn't mean that we're gonna, try to, change the entire structure of the system or anything like that. All it basically means is that, we will be able to represent our own best interests. And again, that is just, that is fair. And I think that, as an employee for the state of Maryland, there should be nothing less for us. So I wholeheartedly, support my sister Katana Hall's point. We need to have HB 374, validated. So I give my wholehearted support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Kondo. Are there any questions from the seeing or hearing none? Ms. York, do we have another witness in support of?
No, we don't.
Okay. Do we have any witnesses that are signed up in opposition of House Bill 374?
Yes, Vice Chair.
Okay, if you could go ahead, Ms. York, and just call that list out as
Yes.
well. Thank you so much.
Okay. So the next witness is Dr. Deborah McCurdy from BCCC. She's the president. Dr. McCurdy?
Yes, good morning. I was having some audio difficulties. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much. And good morning, Chairwoman Smith, Vice Chair Haynes, and the Baltimore City delegation. It's certainly my pleasure to be here this morning to talk with you about House Bill 0374 and the position of Baltimore City Community College in opposition to House Bill 0374. As you've heard, I've been at the college for a year and a half and continuing to engage in many dialogues with faculty and staff. And yes, I am very much aware of so many inequities and so many issues that preceded me. Nevertheless, I'm in that chair, and it is our responsibility to move forward in a shared decision manner and in a way that brings everybody to the table to have discussions about long-standing issues. That's why I was brought to this institution to move the college finally forward on a variety of tasks and so forth. This morning, I'd really like to talk with you about basically 2 points. I have the interim vice president also who will give some testimony in just a few minutes. And I want to talk about those costs and capacity with regard to collective bargaining at 0374. Everyone is well aware of where we are with COVID-19. We have continued to operate pretty much fully on remote at the college and have done so since late March of last year. That means half of the time that I have been at this institution, I have spent in a remote capacity, which no one asked for with regard to the devastation of COVID-19. That has shifted this college into unreal operating dilemmas with an institution that already lagged behind on so much of its infrastructure and operations, things that has not been attended to. Nevertheless, we move forward with COVID-19. We're still in the middle of COVID-19 and expect that we will not resume some degree of face-to-face until sometime in the summer. We're watching, as everyone else is, to see how we can resume. But I'm coming before you to talk about cost and capacity, but I want to start simply with capacity of this institution to manage all the things that have been mandated before us, and on top of that now to begin to think about collective bargaining and all of what has to go into preparing for collective bargaining as well. I certainly support the faculty and well respect for the voice of the faculty and the preeminence of the faculty, and I certainly tell them often that they are preeminent. And with COVID-19, we have gone through multitudes of training for faculty and staff to shift over to our technology, our software, our hardware that has to happen, all of our student support services all being done remotely. We have channeled in as much as we can with distributed CARES money. Again, it takes a lot of operational oversight, so we've already distributed over $1 million in both the student portion. We're taking part of the institutional money and picking up costs for students in terms of their scholarships and their tuition and so forth. So when I look at capacity, there's basically 5 areas that impact us at this time. The first is COVID-19. The second is the 12 realignment tasks that the college back in 2017 was mandated to begin to build in this college differently. So as a result of House Bill 1595 in 2017, and some of you were intimately involved in pushing all of that forward, that had to do with the college. It had to do with our course offerings and what we offer and whether or not those are the right offerings and things that really needed to be updated. Our workforce development, outreach, preparing individuals for what has to happen. Our relationship with Baltimore City Public Schools that is in the process of being rebuilt as we talk about dual enrollment, P-TECH opportunities, and other things. Comprehensive review of all the positions at the institution. Remarketing our brand, the IT infrastructure, the real estate that we've been under mandate to fix with the bar building downtown and other real estate holdings, all that have to be managed differently to determine where we're going to offer our programs and so forth. So capacity, COVID-19 that we are continuing to deal with, 12 realignment tasks that have to be managed on a regular basis with reports going back to the joint chairs on a regular basis as well. Middle stage reaccreditation, and those of you who are familiar with reaccreditation, and you know the difficulty this college has had with reaccreditation, moving from various stages of promotion to warning and back and forth. We're in good standing at the moment. We need to keep it there, but that's going to call for and demand that we pay attention to the operational systems of this college that are not in place, whether or not policies, procedures, or technology. So getting ready for middle stage accreditation, which is a 2.5-year venture that we are beginning now to look at all of our academic and administrative functions. Managing the ERP system, that's part of the realignment as well. The ERP system, which is our technology system that governs and operates everything at this institution. We have just come through and received approval now to go forward and change our system. Baltimore City College operates with a system like nothing that I have seen, certainly 20 plus years old. You can barely find anything that will help to secure that it continues to operate, and we now will be going through a total overhaul of a legacy system, and I mean legacy is over 20 years old. We are in the process, that's an 18-month venture that has to take care of all of our functions and move everything from human resources to our student information systems, to our financial aid, our admissions, our registration, all of our business operations. This is just the technology part. This isn't even all of the 12 realignment tasks, the middle stage reaccreditation, mandated ERP, which will require everything at that institution has to be touched to convert it over to a new and updated technology system. And finally, we talk about strategic planning that really didn't exist at the institution and were mandated as well. We're in the beginning stages now of moving forward with planning for realignment and a comprehensive view for strategic planning that also involves a master facilities plan that is being submitted now to the state, a budget master plan, enrollment master plan, academic master plan, and technology master plan, all of which have to be integrated in a comprehensive way. I believe at this time that that the bill for collective bargaining, which will put some undue hardship on the institution at this point. I think a stronger position is to continue to work in a collegial way with the faculty and allow Baltimore City Community College really to rise and really to have finally the time, the leadership to put in the kinds of operations that are going to ensure our stability and the integrity of this institution and this operation. The capacity of this institution will be so far strained. We are already at a tremendous strain with most schools, never having to deal with all of these capacity issues simultaneously. Realignment tasks, 12 of them. Middle stage reaccreditation, mandated ERP system, strategic planning, none of which has been in place. And I simply come before you to oppose it at this time and to say that we are busy. The faculty certainly are there as well, supporting all of the things that have to happen. But this would put tremendous undue hardship on the operations and the capacity of this institution to move forward with one more major function and task and mandate that would have to occur on top of everything else. I thank you, Mayor, and we do have Donna Williams, who is sitting in the VP for Finance and Administration, to talk a little bit more in opposition about the cost that would be involved at this time as well. Thank you so much.
Madam President, Chairwoman Smith, and greetings to the delegation as well. So I want to focus on three financial components just to unpack the impact of this bill on our institution financially. So the anticipated cost impact of this bill will see an increase in costs as it relates to the hiring of new personnel to manage contracts, identifying office space, officials, fringe benefits, legal fees from hiring attorneys to handle the relations management and the negotiations, staff training, upgrading our payroll systems, and transactional costs, and other transactional costs that directly tie in and relate to the potential impact of the collective bargaining bill. Moreover, I know we mentioned that this is not the case in all unionized labor agreements. However, unionized labor typically has an increased wage component and hiring parameters associated with it. So I want to use that as put a pin in that point and transition to talk about our funding. 71% of our unrestricted funding comes from the state, 23% from tuition and fees. If the financial impact that this would have to our students would be we would have to shift internal funds away from programs like our workforce development programs and other internal operational components to compensate for the increased costs associated with collective bargaining. This directly impacts our students because we are held harmless by the state, meaning even though our enrollment declines and decreases, the state still holds us harmless and funds us at a specific amount. Even though we have that hold harmless amount, it doesn't include salary increases and additional compensation increases that we would have to pay as an institution associated with collective bargaining. That money and those funds would come directly out of tuition and fees, which directly impacts our students. If you, and I'm quite sure you do, if you know about our demographic, we have some of the most vulnerable students in Baltimore City, financially sensitive. So we try to maintain our commitment to being one of the most affordable institutions to your institutions in the state. That's because our student population is sensitive to that. So the associated cost would have to come out of our tuition and fees, which would have a direct impact on our tuition prices, directly impacting our students. And or we may potentially also have impacted programs. This is our workforce development. This is a pipeline directly associated with Baltimore City's workforce. These are our students that move through those programs that transition into many of the jobs and the roles that the city has to offer for employment. So just taking a step back and looking at the larger financial implications and the cost to our students, I think those are three things that we need to keep in mind when considering this. And for these reasons, I echo our President McCurdy. We respectfully would like to oppose House Bill 374. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other?
I have a question.
Either Dr. Purdy or our last tester, Ms. Williams. Okay. Go right ahead.
Sorry, Chairman, are you opening up for questions?
Let me just check 1 second with Ms. York. Are there any further individuals who have signed up to testify in opposition?
Vice Chair.
Sorry.
I said no, no one else has signed up.
Thank you,
Delegate.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you. Sorry, I jumped the gun. There's a little bit of background. I don't think it's you, Mr. Chair. I think it's just maybe connection in general. But I want to just thank the sponsor and also thank Dr. McCurdy. It's a pleasure to see you. Thank you for laying out the various goals, which is also why you were brought on because of your talent. And I appreciate your service. And we're working close together on a lot of ways to continue to keep BCCC as a pillar of our community. I just had two questions around the capacity. I couldn't make out all of it, but I think I'm very aware of a lot of the different benchmarks and tasks that you have on your plate. So the one I wanted to ask is just about the capacity that you raise. And I know that the fiscal note for this says that it would be $312. That's from the Department of Legislative Services. And so in regards to the capacity, I would like to know how this would, in terms of just being able to at least carry out the process of voting for a union, right? We're not talking about contract negotiation because this legislation only allows for workers to be able to vote to have a collective bargaining agreement. And so knowing that you currently have a collective bargaining agreement with AFSCME, which I believe would be a larger unit than what the faculty is asking for, can you please elaborate more on how this would have an undue, or this would increase your capacity currently, if that makes any sense? How would this be any different from what we have in place with AFSCME?
Yes, this would be, are you able to hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. Yes, this would fold into everything else the college is doing, certainly a vote to support the House Bill for collective bargaining is it's beyond the vote. At some point, the work has to begin as well in terms of everything that has to be put in place, new infrastructure for the support faculty and a union for collective bargaining. And so I think with all due respect, I take it to its fullest extent that says that a vote says that you will begin to move towards putting in an infrastructure for collective bargaining at this point, which will then fold in with all of the infrastructure changes that we're trying to manage at a critical time as well. We certainly don't want to jeopardize anything with realignment. We don't want to jeopardize anything that has to do with our middle state accreditation and preparing for that. There are just things that ideally and logically need to be at this institution. And quite frankly, they are not there. And some of you are well aware of the things that aren't there. And so when I talk about capacity, it's beyond the vote. It is saying that at some point you have to prepare. A vote says that, well, yeah, they voted and it's a yes. And so at some point you have to begin to shift your resources over to say, how are you going to put that infrastructure in place now to do all of this? And so what I've inherited now, I can't now say that, well, yeah, I inherited, I did, but now it is ours to move this forward and to make substantive change at this institution. And I'm simply bringing before the delegates to say, this is one task that I have not seen anything like this in my 30 years in higher education. And I don't have any reason. I've said the same thing to the faculty. I've said the same thing to the board. And so in trying to respond to your question, Delegate Wells, I'm being certainly very forthright and open that a vote is not simply a vote. It is saying you must prepare your institution along with everything else that you have been mandated to do. Now fold this big one in as well and see how well you're going to manage all of this. You have antiquated systems, you have policies and procedures that are not in place. You were already behind, and you've been behind at this institution for years. And as I said, I've seen nothing like this. You have technology that doesn't even make sense. Nothing connects. Everything is a workaround at this institution. So apart from this capacity, the operational side of just trying to get something done, just trying to get students in and registered is tremendous. And you begin to shift the work, the thinking, and the resources of administrators who have to do this every day, notwithstanding the faculty. I have no issues with the faculty. Everywhere I've been, I've enjoyed productive relationships with the faculty because we've sat down, we've talked about things, we moved it forward with a shared governance infrastructure, dialogue that's meaningful, that supports the interests of the students and puts the students first at this institution. And I'm simply saying, at this time, this college cannot afford to shift one more time to something else major because it's not something small. It is major. And I'm simply saying, please, that this is, again, one more undue hardship for this institution to have to grapple with at this time.
Got it. If Mr. Chair, just one quick question and follow up. And also, I think we heard this in the testimony of in support of the bill from some of the faculty, and it strikes me that you have faculty that's really just calling out for just more voice and the ability to at least begin a process, right, of what that looks like, which is the vote for a collective bargaining agreement. And then there is actual negotiation, which I think I'm not naive. I understand how union contracts are done. So I do realize that that does bring people to the table. But with that being the case, so when we get to the point of negotiation, so say this passes, people have the right to vote, there is a vote for there to be a collective bargaining agreement for faculty. Sounds like there may be some opportunity to negotiate not having pay raises for 2 to 3 years. If there is some type of agreement in the legislative language for this bill to say we will not negotiate on pay and raises for a couple of years, because it sounds like you have a very understanding faculty, at least from what I can hear in today's testimony. And that's really committed to BCCC, right? And also committed to you and your vision, but really seeking some more support. And again, that reaching out for support is something they've been reaching out for at least 16 years, at least in the testimony that we heard. And so would you be amenable to there being some language added to this bill that would say we will not negotiate for a certain period of time for pay raises?
I think it's less about the pay raises. When you look at the institution, and certainly Ms. Williams, as Chief Finance Officer, can attest to, in the year and a half I've been at the institution, that both faculty and staff have had increases of 7.5% in various stages. So I've been there a year and a half. So 7.5%, I think one of those raises was instituted just prior to my coming in May of 19. So over that period of time, many of you work with other entities where you've not had raises given our economy in a while. This institution, given the support and what comes down from government, from Governor Hogan at the state agency, 7.5% in less than 2 years, a $500 as well increment, a single payment, almost unheard of, and yet that funding comes out of our operational budget. We don't receive additional dollars in order to provide those types of raises, and it really is about it really is about the capacity more than anything else. And that's what I'm trying to stress, to even suggest for me that the faculty would indicate, yeah, we'll kind of forego some raises. No, let's forego the operational shift and talk about capacity. Give this institution an opportunity to rise where it needs to be, and give me the opportunity as president to come in and to make these changes, to work with the various groups that are here, and to demonstrate that you can move forward in a different way. And whether or not collective bargaining comes in at some point across the state of Maryland, I'm not naive about what's going on in the state of Maryland. I'm simply saying this is not the time. And you've asked for things to happen in an institution and then continue to put more and more. At what point does the strain become so insurmountable? Faculty work hard, but guess what? So do administrators. And I have the administrative team who are working 12 and 15-hour days as well, every day of the week, trying to straighten out one thing after another. Every time you close one thing and one gap, 5 more things bust wide open. You have an institution that has not been attended to in years. I'm asking for the opposition for 0374 to give us time to get the rest of these things in place. I will work every day with the faculty to continue to chip away at the issues and the problems that they have had. And we need to be able to do that without trying to bring in one more huge and very complicated operational infrastructure at this time.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to say to our delegation chair, we had a great hearing the other day in appropriations on this bill, and I welcome this bill. I do want to add my 2 cents and tell you that this is a situation in which if we take a vote today, I'm going to have to abstain. But let me just talk a little bit about the importance of this bill, and also I guess the importance of listening also to Dr. McGurty. First of all, I want to say to Mr. Baker, you're absolutely right about the history of collective bargaining at BCCC, and you're absolutely right that the Appropriations Committee supported a bill that all community colleges that currently do not have collective bargaining be able to do that. And that is a bill that will be before us again this year. I just want the delegation to know that so we can put this in context. Ms. Hall, I am so pleased that you were, and I think Delegate Boyce and Delegate Anderson and I are pleased that you were educated in the 43rd District all the way through. We are pleased to have you here and have your service to BCCC. And to Dr. McCurdy, you are absolutely right about what not only the state legislature has commanded of you in a huge reform bill a few years ago, where you had to address, BCCC had to address 12 deficiency areas, where you almost lost the institution, not you. You were brought in as a result of these needs for change to almost lost its accreditation and so on and so forth. You're marching down that 12 steps, the 12 steps. You're getting through all of those reforms beautifully. You have absolutely, like everybody else, had the impact of the pandemic and so on and so forth, but you're doing a great job. I do want to point out that BCCC is different than a community college because, as Mr. Baker said, Montgomery County, Prince George's County have collective bargaining. And the cost of that, if there was any, the cost of increases in the salaries, if there was any, to the budget, was covered by the local government. BCCC is a state agency. Do not kid yourself. $45 million of its budget is state money. I believe the city only contributes $1 million, maybe a little bit more, but let's be very clear. This is a state agency we're talking about. We're not talking about Baltimore County, Montgomery County, or Prince George's County community colleges, where the local government funds upwards of 50% of their budget. So it's just different. Now, I think everybody should vote whenever the chair calls the vote. Vote however you feel about this bill. And I, too, am very in favor of collective bargaining. And I'm in favor of it at all of our local community colleges. But I will say that I need to work with the sponsor of this bill. I need to work with the sponsor of the community college bill that would cover all community colleges. And I think I'm going to listen to all of our concerns and work with the sponsor to make sure that we do this in a way that does not impede the progress that the president of BCCC is making right now. And that we look at who will be responsible for funding any increase in costs. Does it have to be the state? Is it the state? I mean, I'm fine with that, but we do have to look at that as we move forward. But I just want to say in context, one, this has been a great hearing, just like it was in my committee the other day. Two, I very much appreciate all sides of this story. And I do want to say at the end of it, we all should appreciate the work that BCCC, the president, the faculty are doing, because they're doing an awesome job out there turning around an institution, a pillar institution in our community that was about ready to be closed at one point in time just a few years ago. So thank you. And to my chair, city delegation, Delegate Smith, this is an important bill. Do not minimize or read anything into the fact that if there is a vote taken today, I will pass. But I encourage people to vote on this bill because of the great merits of the bill.
And thank you very much, Chairman. We did this week, and don't see or hear any more questions from the members of the delegation. Madam Chair of the delegation, do you want to put this to a vote at this time?
Yeah, I'm happy to do so.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair? Yes, I'm fine with that.
Yes. Okay. So our committee council, I would, as chair, acting chair, I would entertain a motion in support of House Bill 374. If you could just state your name and make the motion, because we have some technical difficulties going on here.
So moved, Delegate Wells.
Okay. Is there a second? Please state your name and second.
Second, Delegate Branch.
Could our committee council please take the vote in the appropriate fashion that has been laid out previously by the chair?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to go ahead and call the roll. Delegate Ambrose. Delegate Anderson.
You say Anderson?
First Delegate Ambrose, if he's here.
Absent.
No, I'm here. I'm
Absent.
sorry. Yes, I'm here.
So,
Delegate Anderson.
Yes.
Delegate Attar.
Yes.
Delegate Boyce. Delegate Boyce. Delegate Chanel.
Yes.
Delegate Talmadge Branch. I believe he's absent. Delegate Bridges.
Yes.
Delegate Clippinger.
Yes.
Delegate Conaway.
Yes.
Delegate Haynes. Mr. Vice Chair?
Yes. Oh, okay.
yeah.
You hear?
Yes. Delegate Lewis. Delegate Lewis, can you hear us? Delegate Learman. Delegate Learman. Delegate McIntosh will abstain. Delegate Rosenberg.
Aye. Yes.
Delegate Wells.
Yes.
Chair Smith.
Yes.
And Delegate Boyce and Learman, if you could just leave in the chat, since we missed your vote, whether you vote yea or nay or choose to abstain. Either way, we have a majority, so the motion will carry with a favorable report.
Thank you all. That concludes the hearing on House Bill 374. You go back to the chair.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vice Chair. Actually, at this moment, I wanted to go back to an opportunity for Delegate Haynes. I believe there's a question you wanted to pose to Chairman Clippinger about the prior bill for Delegate Lewis. I want to give you the opportunity to get that clarity.
Yeah, I don't want to hold up moving bills, voting on the bill. I think I found the answer to my question after researching my memory here, so I'm okay.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to know, based on the hearing we had for just a moment, for House Bill 284 from Delegate Lewis, the vehicle laws dedicated bus lanes enforcement, do we have a motion to vote on that bill today?
Order, Madam Chair.
Yes, Delegate.
I'm not sure whether Delegate Conaway is indicating he has a question or not. He's sort of raising his hand.
I am so sorry I couldn't see him. Thank you for that. I didn't see his hand raised. Delegate Conaway, my apologies. I didn't see you in my grid view. And if you have a question, please go ahead. So sorry about that.
Okay, but I'm having all kinds of technical issues here. But on Amendment 2, how do you know if the vehicle is or it did make a right-hand turn immediately after it got the ticket?
Yes, Delegate, that's a question for Delegate Lewis, the sponsor of the bill.
Yes. Sorry.
No problem. I actually don't see her in here. Maybe she had some longstanding issues and declined to return. What I'll do in light of that is we'll just postpone any further discussion or vote on this bill until the next meeting of the delegation, because you do need to hear from the bill sponsor directly, Delegate, okay?
Thank you so very much.
Write down that question so we can get it answered.
I'll send it to you in writing. Thank you.
I appreciate that. That would conclude all of our bill hearings for today. Moving on to subcommittee reports. Chairman Klippinger of the Alcohol Subcommittee.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good morning to everyone. We had a first meeting of the Alcohol Subcommittee on Tuesday. We'll have another meeting next Tuesday and the Tuesday after that. If you have not submitted, if you've not put your alcohol bill in the hopper, you really have to get that done right about now so that we can get those bills considered, get any amendments taken care of, and move those bills forward in enough time for Alcohol Day and the Economic Matters Committee, which I believe is the 17th of February. So if you have an alcohol-related bill, now is the time to get it to the hopper. Monday at the very latest. So thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. A report from the Education Subcommittee. Chairman Learman, thank you.
Thanks so much. I don't have anything to update the committee on right now. I will be reaching out to the subcommittee members to see if there are things that we would like to go over. It might be helpful to work with Chair McIntosh and our appropriator colleagues to hear about legislation that's being offered, or the budget at least. So the Education Subcommittee might reach out to you, Chairwoman McIntosh. Thanks.
May I say something, Madam Chair? That's a very good idea. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about the same thing, that we ought to get together and make sure we're on the same page about what we want to request, not only for FY22, but we have a gap year here because the governor vetoed the Kerwin bill, and what we might need to negotiate in a relief package or other vehicles that we have to get money, even more money, into FY21 this year and FY22 next year. So we do need a conversation. Thank you.
Music to my ears, also thinking the same. Nice to see the synergy come together. And the last but not least, Chairman Wells for Public Safety.
Thank you. So no updates today, but similarly, it will be good. I'll be reaching out to members of the committee to see what we should be looking at, as well as appropriations, to see if there's some support resources that we need to be looking at for public safety. So look out for those updates.
Thank you. And Delegate Klippinger, I'm doing this for emphasis because the new business is your hearing next week. And I think it's just repeating one more time for people to get their things together in a timely way.
You know, Madam Chair, if it would be helpful, I'd be happy to go into a soliloquy about all the different reasons why people need to submit their alcohol bills and do it right away. Did I actually mention that people should submit their alcohol bills right away? I can't remember from a moment ago, but I don't know. It probably has to do with my concern that people aren't submitting their liquor bills in enough time. But thank you.
Thank you so much for that re-emphasis that we needed it one more time. Okay, so we have nothing else left on the agenda, so I'm actually going to conclude the hearing in a moment, but I just wanted all of the members to hang on for just like 3 seconds more because Crystal just wanted to give you some, a quick update while we're together. So Jeremy, do we need a motion to conclude?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Is there a motion to conclude the hearing?
Delegate Well.
Is there a second?
Madam Chair?
Yes? I'm sorry, I was getting feedback.
Second.
Okay, great. All those in favor, aye? Any opposed? Of course not. All right, meeting adjourned. Just hang on all the members and I will conclude the recording. Just a moment.